Republicans in corrals, not let them see the ballot. They did it in Pittsburgh. They did it in Detroit. They did it in Milwaukee. They did it in Phoenix. They did it in Las Vegas. They did it in all these places where they have this Democrat, machine. And it's impossible that every one of these Democratic leaders woke up the day after the election with the same idea of not allowing Republicans to see the mail ballots and corral them into chutes, even though the law of their state requires that it be observed by a Republican and a Democrat. And forever, we've done that with absentee ballots. Second, we're about to file a lawsuit now in Michigan in which, again, hundreds of thousands of ballots were cast without any observation. A Democrat whistleblower working for the board in Detroit has come forward and has given evidence of days and days of fraud, preparation for it, backdating of votes, going into the polling place with people, showing them how to vote, taking votes of people that weren't registered and then actually going to the registrar book and registering at the time. She observed all of this. She was disgusted with it. She's a Democrat. She's come forward. She's given us an affidavit, and she's at the heart of the Democratic case that we have, which will be filed in Lansing, Michigan, which will show that well more than the margin of victory are illegal votes. And then a very extraordinary thing. Somewhere around 4 or 4:30 in the morning on November 4, right after the election, 100,000 or so ballots showed up at the headquarters. The observers were leaving at that time. So the crooked Democrats in Detroit figured they could count the ballots when the observers weren't around. However, several observers remained behind, and they have given us affidavits. And the affidavits say that these 100,000 ballots that were not properly packaged. They're supposed to be packaged in a big wooden box with an inner box and a seal. They look more like this. Some that had come in earlier in the day, they look somewhat more like in boxes like this. Don't know if you can see that.
Okay, yeah.
And then were laid out like that, which completely destroys the secrecy of the ballot. And then all of a sudden they began counting them very quickly. And three different affiants, people who have sworn under oath, this is one of them, Andrew Cito, said that all of these votes, to the extent that he heard them being called out or he observed them, were for Joseph Biden.
Hello everyone. So we now actually have Giuliani presenting evidence for Trump's legal battle. And Newsmax here, one of the only news channels that are willing to actually put this out because they don't have a narrative to fill, they're actually questioning Giuliani about where it's at and who all is involved. And Giuliani gives a pretty run-down report. It doesn't look like Giuliani's giving information out yet. However, he does have this information, and it comes with a plethora of pictures. And we're seeing ballots being left on the side of the road. We're seeing ballot boxes that they ship them in that are already cracked open. This is not part and parcel of an election. This is not normal. We have instances where they closed up shop and then boarded up windows and continued to contabulate votes without ongoing watchers. See, every voting cycle, we have a group of people sit down, and usually you have a Republican on one side and the Democrat on the other, and they will void any kind of thing that they have a problem with. Otherwise, it goes into one bin or another bin, and then that bin is contabulated through a machine. This was set up all the way from top to bottom. This whistleblower that Giuliani is talking about how it was started from the very get-go. Before the election even started, they had presented ways to get more votes for Joseph Biden. We think it's ironic how many Biden ballots just magically appeared during the time they claimed they had stopped counting ballots. Honestly, the Democrats have had over 4 years to plan this fraud on the American people. Let's hope that they are as stupid as we know they are and didn't do a good enough job to cover it up. Some of the focus is on actual voting counters. Some of the focus is on people who have stolen ballots from people and tried to dump them off somewhere. There are multiple instances of actual voter fraud if the news media, the mainstream news media, would actually portray it as such, actually show it. We think another problem is the Dominion software. The Dominion software itself is probably screwed up, and it's probably giving out votes that aren't accurate. We like a certain slogan we saw the other day. Trump, quote, the art of the deal. Biden, quote, the art of the steal. And the more and more we find proof, we need to stack it up so they can beat the Democrats silly with it. This doesn't need to be allowed. They don't need to proceed doing this farce on the American people. It's all about power and money with the Democrat Party. Between mail-in votes and the Hammer scorecard and the Dominion voting machines, there has to be some people trying to manipulate something. We implore Rudy to not even give any more names for any more witnesses. These witnesses will, Rudy, have accidents before they get to court. You need to protect these witnesses at all costs. The fraud in the Democrat Party right now is so obvious, even Ray Charles would be able to see this coming. There really is so much more at stake than just this election. You're talking about another 4 years from now. Will it be the same? Or will the Democrats vote in more laws in the next 4 years while they're obtaining power that allow them to be able to subvert the election from henceforth, forevermore? If it's allowed to pass now, when do we say this is fallible? When do we say this is a mistake? This doesn't work for us. Another 4 years from now, another 8 years from now, another 16 years from now. We need to get this right today. And if the Democrats didn't have anything to hide, and the media didn't have anything to hide, then why fight against it? Why argue with it? And why make fun of it? I promise you, the same people that wanted Trump out of office, they will continue to attack that man even though he's out of office. It's vindictive and repulsive behavior. Although we know this is a politically sensitive topic, it's pretty much obvious that Biden wasn't kidding when he said that he didn't need our votes to win. He wasn't kidding when he said he built the largest group of voter fraud people in American history. He didn't add anti-anything to that statement, and yet he made it, and there it is for everyone to see. We think it's funny, though, out of all things that happened in 2020, the Dems back in 2016 screamed to high hell, impeach Orange Man bad for his election fraud involving the Russians. We jump forward to 2020. Their biggest quote, no possible way there's an election fraud. No mention of the Russians, no mentions of the Iranians, no mentions of their own frauding. And so people remember, Giuliani took down the mob in the 80s. Maybe, just maybe, he'll do it again and take down the mob as we know it as the Democrat Party in 2020. Wouldn't that be a real kick in the pants to see Giuliani beat the mob once again? We personally know one person that is claiming that they were forced to use a Sharpie marker, and now he hears that those ballots are not registered by the machine and they didn't see a number change, and the person who was the observer happened to be masked so you couldn't even figure out who a person was in the building. They jumped in on the vote altogether, trying to contabulate the person's vote right in front of them. And it's completely outrageous. This is a person from Arizona, and we just think Arizona was another one that needs to be reran. The media were fine with ignoring the Biden laptop. The media were fine with ignoring what Epstein was doing behind everyone's back. The media is fine with annexing the idea of even talking negative about George Soros. After this election is corrected, I'm actually looking forward to seeing some of these things fixed, like Hunter's laptop being exposed. These things can't last in perpetuity. They can't last forever. Things like Hunter's laptop are going to come to a light eventually. But we are extremely happy that we have a Democrat whistleblower that actually had the courage to speak up about the voter fraud corruption that they were seeing take place in front of them. And kudos for them for being an actual American and not being so tribal that they can't see what's wrong with America. This voting process was failed, and wrong from the get-go. And luckily, we have a few Americans, no matter what side they stand on, they realize that it's still America. And we love them for that. We appreciate that. And hopefully everybody in America will understand as well. If the roles were reversed and that Republicans were accused of voter fraud, we wouldn't automatically believe the testimony of one supposed whistleblower. However, we would take it as irrefutable proof if you are talking about multiple people. And we're talking about multiple people and multiple states where a lot of voter fraud was taking place. One person was caught trying to make it to Canada. Another person went to senior living facilities and wrote up to 70 different ballots. They frauded those ballots. Ballot boxes themselves that were literally yanked up by trucks in the middle of the night. Groups in actual counting, sorting facilities that were waiting for people to turn their backs, waiting for them to leave, telling them to leave, and then counting up more votes. You have securities in these places defending this. Police defending this. I don't care how righteous you may feel. Your righteousness over Democrat or Republican should not ever supersede the right to be an American, the right to your freedom. You should never want to take away your rights, your freedoms, so that you can beat your opponent. It's only beating you. And if we can get Joe Biden to come out and say, we have made the biggest voter fraud organization in American history, how is that itself not a witness? How is that itself not admittance to what they did? Honestly, it seems like communism in action. If Biden loses 600,000 votes, it may be over for him. And this may be the amount of cheating that they've done. It may be worse. We really think these photos tell a lot. Depending on what the timestamp was and where it was from taken, we can only assume that these are actual true photos. And ballots being left on the side of the road, just all willy-nilly hanging out. That's not acceptable. That's not right. Unboxed votes getting shipped. You're allowing anybody and anything to get up in there and destroy ballots or change them. And it's not acceptable. There's even video of boxes like the ones we've seen in this video that are being brought in right before Biden votes go up. Thank God it's such a wonderful technological age that we have cameras everywhere. And these Democrat puppets that are going around changing votes and committing fraud, wake up, folks. You guys are going to go to jail. Each one of you vote counters out there that changed votes, just understand there was a camera sitting on you somewhere. Not all of it is in secret like you would like to believe, and the Democrats would let you hang for it just for their advantage. So believe me, Democrats, if you were out there in those groups changing votes, contabulating things messed up, throwing out votes, you will probably be caught. And most of us won't feel sympathetic for you. It's messed up to make somebody wait in line for a few hours to go and just check a couple boxes, and those boxes don't even get to be counted. We're hoping and we're praying that we don't get corrupt judges. Hopefully, we are ensured fair trials. If we didn't know any better, Rudy is actually wanting racketing charges. I mean, just judging by the way he's talking about this, it's looking like he's talking about racketeering charges. We even wonder if the RICO Act couldn't be enacted. Maybe it can be implemented to nail them all. Every last one of these corrupt participants in this act of treasonous sedation, obstruction, which would include Hillary Clinton also, and Nancy Pelosi's husband even, who actually has financial interest in the electronic vote machines used in 47 of the 50 states, using them too. They should probably just go ahead and use the RICO Act on them. Now, Rudy, he didn't actually create the RICO Act, but he does know how to implement it pretty good. Overall, if the dementia patient gets in, we're on par with a third world banana republic. Between the people that are in power, that are going to be in power once he's actually so-called elected president, they're going to put so much push, and there's going to be so much infighting that it's not going to accomplish a whole lot. So we don't have a whole lot of fear in a Biden administration, especially if the Republicans retain the Senate. They have the Senate, and for the most part, they have the Supreme Court, which balances out any of the negatives of the Democrats in Congress At this point, we think the whole election should be declared null and void, and a new election should be held in every state. And the second election should be observed by both parties, and maybe even organized and executed by the military itself. And as Trump said, this in-person only stuff is the only way that you can get anything done, and know that it's done properly. Mail-in ripe with fraudulency. You can mess up anything and everything on the way there. It may not even get there via transport. We're seeing UPS vans that are still dropping off ballots. We'd like to also point out there's no need for these mail-in votes either. The minute they're done doing all these votings and down to 1 or 2 states left that are still undecided, they go out and party in the streets. It kind of looks like they've overcome their fear of COVID. We also kind of want to point out that Trump's team got a vaccine done by the end of the year, just like they speculated they would. The media and Joe Biden said it couldn't be done. So where's his faith in science? Another thing that I think is really important to point out is it's absolutely a fraud. It should be invalid, null and void, just because it's downright criminal to even deny court-ordered supervision. You did everything you could do to hide away from lawyers that were supposed to sit there and observe. And we'll leave you on this note. It really does not matter if you are Democrat or Republican in this issue. What matters is the integrity and trusting that your vote counts. Otherwise, your whole entire system is nothing. It's completely worthless. It even makes sense that some of the gaffes that Joe Biden, we look back at some of these, and he said, vote for Trump a couple of different times. And it leads you to believe that he knew that it didn't matter if you voted for Trump, that it was going to go to him anyway. But hats off to Rudy Giuliani. We're glad that he's showing up, trying to do something about this. And we're glad that he is at least a number of people that are coming out trying to show off the election fraud that is occurring in the United States right now. And hats off to the men and women that are brave enough to come out and claim that this election fraud is going on. Because without a fair election, we will never see a leader that is supposed to lead our country voted in by its people. And that's not freedom, and that's not taking care of your own country. That's allowing usurpers, communists, Marxists. You're allowing a lot of bad people into office by acting that way and allowing it. And if you don't put your foot down and you don't do anything about this, then we don't have any leg to stand on in elections whatsoever. It's the biggest cheater or the best cheater wins. Anyway, you folks have a wonderful afternoon, a good morning, a good night, whichever. Please like, share, and subscribe. We really do appreciate that around here. Also, drop a comment down below. We like to talk with you. We like to pick your brain. And if you have any ideas for new videos, go ahead and drop us a line down below. Also, don't forget to hit the notification bell. If you don't hit the notification bell, you're probably going to have a problem getting our videos. God bless each and every one of you. See ya.